Well, that time has finally come for part 2. Hi everyone, it's T Woods. 3 years ago, I made a video showcasing a bunch of Easter eggs and references in video games for the Back to the Future trilogy. Since then, the video has done very well with over 16k views. At the end of that video, I said I was going to make a part 2, and many have asked what happened to it. Well, it was always my intention to release the second part a few weeks later, but I got severely burnt out from editing, and it just never came out. Right after that, I got really busy with my real-life job, and it made it difficult to work on anything YouTube-related for a while. Not only that, but the list I originally compiled was starting to increase with new games that had been releasing since 2021. But I felt that I needed to come back and finish what I started. While working on part 1, I knew I wasn't going to be able to cover them all in one video. So that left me with a lot of footage left over, and more footage still yet to record. A few of the games I didn't own, some of which I really had no interest in playing, so I didn't feel like pushing myself to buy a bunch of the remaining games to finish up the list. So I've done as best as I can to grab as much footage of the remaining ones through other sources. After getting everything edited down, I realized I had over 40 minutes of Easter eggs to show. So I've split part 2 up and will be releasing part 3 in a couple weeks, so stay tuned for that. We have a lot of games to cover, so let's not waste any more time. Everyone here should be familiar with the iconic DeLorean used as the main source of time travel in the films. While there are a ton of games that feature the DeLorean, some that are a direct reference or others that added the car for racing games. I want to focus more on the Back to the Future references. Some of these cars don't even really look like the DeLorean either, so this category will be dubbed close but not quite a DeLorean. The first one can be found in Insomniac's 2014 game Sunset Overdrive. During gameplay, you may end up meeting your untimely demise, and the developers thought it would be funny to add a bunch of random respawn animations to the game. There's a lot of references to pop culture, movies, TV shows, and also other video games. You name it, there's a lot in here. But what we're looking for in particular is the Back to the Future one. There are 2 versions of this animation, so we'll start with the first one. This one has one of the main characters known as Walter taking the DeLorean back from the main character, while our main character stands there looking at their watch. The second animation is exactly the same, but different in one particular detail. Walter has now been replaced with Marty McFly, or, well, a look-alike. I think that's one of the coolest Easter eggs on the list, and mainly due to the creativity Insomniac put into the respawn animations themselves. In Burnout Paradise, you can find a few iconic movie cars, like Ghostbusters Ecto-1, but we want the hover car, also known in this game as the P-1288 Special. Yes, not quite a DeLorean, but it does have a similar appearance and can drive in hover mode. Generation Zero is a really cool 80s robot shooter with many fun Easter eggs hidden all over. I had quite the laugh when I spotted this reference to the log truck pileup scene from Final Destination 2. If you grab the Tubular Vanity Pack, I'm pretty sure this one is free. If not, I think it was free at one point. But this pack includes some 80s themed outfits, one of which specifically bears a striking resemblance to Marty McFly's attire. But this isn't the Easter egg. This is where you originally spawn when you first load in. If you make your way across the map over to the mountain region, at this little location here is a group of barns and a farmhouse. I kind of skipped a lot of the main story to get over here, so I wasn't really the best equipped for what hell I was about to be in for. Mind you, I've made this trek over here by bicycle more times than I wanted. I'll let you know why in a moment. But making your way over to the barns, you'll find that they are heavily guarded by patrolling robots, some of which are the strongest robot types in the game. By sheer luck, a lot of the time I managed to take them out. Like this time here, it killed itself with that blast, plus me in the process. Once they're all dealt with, if you make your way over here to this barn, you will find another hover car. Again, not quite a DeLorean, but it does appear as if they were intending it to be like the time machine. I'm attempting to open the doors here because in an earlier version of the game, these doors used to open, as you can see here from a previous recording I made in 2022. If you're wondering why it's engulfed in fire, well, that's sort of the reason why I've made the long trek over here multiple times. In that earlier version, this car was buggy as hell. So buggy that no matter how many times I purged my save data or reinstalled the game, this car was always blown up. The cars actually went through a couple of redesigns over the years as well. The old version used metal garbage cans for the vents instead of the recycle containers. At the back of the car, you'll notice the plutonium reactor. Interacting with it will start up the car and send it on its way. Now that's a really cool Easter egg. I kind of wish they would have added some sound effects to it. I think that would have made it even better. Within Just Cause 3, you might find this car parked on the side of the road. It's also tied to a specific side mission where you have to try keeping the car above 60. Well, we use kilometers here in Canada, so it would be closer to 40 miles per hour. But regardless, this game missed an opportunity to stay above 88. Also, not really sure why they modeled this car to specifically reference the time machine, but it's still cool nonetheless. there's actually a couple references to Back to the Future in The Simpsons Tapped Out. I played this game for quite a while, but unfortunately the game is ending next year after 12 long years. In the January 2024 update, Better Late Than Forever, there was a premium car bundle that included the Time Mobile and a Frink costume that could be purchased with donuts. This car was actually from one of the Halloween Treehouse of Horror episodes that parodied Back to the Future, where Frink had invented the time machine out of a Prius. In a much earlier update for Black History Month, there was actually a quest line involving Frink again that referenced Back to the Future Part 2 and the Sports Almanac. Moving away from the close but not quite a DeLorean category, let's start looking at more direct DeLorean Easter eggs. First of which is in Duke Nukem Time to Kill. Yes, a very old game from 1998, but most prefer classic Duke Nukem. This is actually the oldest game that's on the list. In Level 4, Golden Guns, there's actually a DeLorean hidden in the mineshaft. If you're familiar with Duke Nukem, you know he's full of crazy one-liners about pop culture and likes making as many fourth-wall breaking references as Deadpool. Obviously, you'd expect him to say something silly here. Walking up to it, he will say one of 3 lines.
Oh, if only I had my flux capacitor with me. Hello, McFly? Where's Doc Brown when you need him?
In Retro City Rampage's level, Doc Chalk's Magic Clocks, a future version of the player will arrive and tell you to go charge up Doc's DeLorean. In order to do that, you must run over 88 pedestrians. Seems a bit excessive, not sure how running over people at full speed charges up a flux capacitor, or flax combobulator is what it's referred to in this. But once you do, you'll notice the fire trails and the car will travel back to Doc's place, where he will come out to greet you and your future self. They also make a reference to Doc hitting his head, which is what led him to envision the flux capacitor. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege has had many different events, one of which was very limited, and that's the Showdown event. This 3v3 mode has only been available twice, once in July of 2019 and then 2 years later during September of 2021. Why they wouldn't bring this mode back more frequently baffles me, because not only is it limited time, but it's also the only way to play on the Fort Truth map. This mode must not have been that popular, because there is very little footage of the next Easter egg I'm about to show, and that's within this mine shaft. If you come down here, you will find some initials carved in the wood, just like Doc Brown's from Part 3. Bashing the wood paneling will reveal a covered DeLorean exactly how it was seen in the third film. Why they would lock this cool map behind such an extremely limited time event feels like an insult to the map designer who implemented this cool Easter egg into the game. Maybe one day they'll revive this map or bring back the mode, but after 3 years the chances are looking slimmer every day. Staying on the topic of Doc's carved initials, you may also spot them within a mineshaft during Sniper Elite 5's Rough Landing DLC. But this time it's actually ELB like the movie. Unfortunately, there's no hidden car this time, but still a very neat addition to the level design. Within Police Stories, a retro top-down breach and clear game, you may just spot something strange during the mission's showtime. If you head over to the garage, you definitely won't miss a DeLorean time machine parked inside. In Retro Machina, there's actually a couple Easter eggs. You can spot the decaying DeLorean, and also flipping the switch to activate the elevator, you'll notice it's being powered by 1.21 gigawatts. In this mobile game, Hashiriya Drifter No. 1 Racing, you'll also find the massive, not to scale in any way DeLorean randomly parked here. Not sure why it's so big, it's actually kind of funny. The final DeLorean is in Worms 4 Mayhem. On the level Destruct and Serve, this entire map is set on some bizarre island where the Hill Valley Courthouse is cut off from, well, the rest of the town square. If you head on over to the car, there's actually a lot more to this than the car itself. Igniting a stick of dynamite or any type of explosive near the back of the car will trigger this cool effect. And there it goes, leaving fire trails behind. There's also a cutscene that plays after completing the level that has a lot of small nods to the movie as well. This movie set located in the Universal Studio backlot has changed its appearance numerous times and has been featured in many movies and TV shows over the years. It's appeared in Gremlins, Bruce Almighty, and most recently the Ted TV show. But as for games, developers go for a more simplistic approach and mainly just feature the courthouse. Sometimes very obvious, sometimes more subtly. In Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2, there's a really awesome Easter egg hidden within the Zombopolis map. After the plants capture the first point, the zombies will have to defend the city hall, which if you look closely you can probably already tell that the clock hands are set at, well, it's not exactly 10:04, but it's close enough. This is only part of the Easter egg though. On a rare occasion you may spot something happen with the clock. Now I did some testing with this and I found that if you wait as long as you can with the first 2 capture points, the clock will start to spin around 8 minutes into the match. If plants are too quick, then you may miss the lightning and the fire trails that follow. What's funny is I knew about the clock face years ago. I only recently discovered the fire trail. The clock face in the main hub is also set at that time. Unfortunately, it has been covered by this event timer for several years. In the early days, the clock was more noticeable and also had the lion statues. The clock face at 10:04 is also in Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville as well. On the Port Bay map of World of Tanks Blitz, within the middle of the map you will spot this familiar looking courthouse. If you get up close and go into sniper mode, there's actually a Save the Clock Tower flyer pasted on the wall. You find these Easter eggs in the strangest places. I never would have expected this in a World of Tanks game.
Don't forget to take a flyer. Save the clock tower!
You'll find another clock tower in LEGO Batman 2 on the next President level. If you select Cyborg, he will have the ability to spin the clock hands to, you guessed it, 10:04 p.m. Once doing so, we'll activate a lightning bolt that will reveal a mini-kit location. Saints Row 4 is full of crazy Easter eggs and references to other media, one of them actually being quite early in the game. When your boss is stuck in the 50s simulation, you will have to come over to the town square, which looks very similar to Hill Valley's, including the iconic courthouse with the clock stuck at 10:04. This specific section of the map is exclusive to the 50s simulation, and within the Saints Who Saved Christmas DLC. The courthouse isn't the only Easter egg though. You will also spot the Save the Clock Tower flyers in the newspaper boxes on the sidewalks. Later on in the DLC, you will be asked to stick your tongue to the antenna on the roof to extend the power flow. Refusing to do so will actually play out very similarly to another movie, A Christmas Story.
Shorty, did you hear what Sid asked me to do? No way I'm doing that.
Well then, I dare you.
Hell no, that is not happening.
Fine. I double dog dare you.
Now it was serious. A double dog dare. What else was left but a triple dare you? And finally, the coup de grace of all dares, the sinister triple dog dare.
I triple dog dare you.
Jesus, are you alright?
Zombie, I am not talking to you right now.
The power is restored.
This is not the only time they make a reference to A Christmas Story either.
What's with the crowd?
They're here for the Crimson Cowboy Carbine Action 200 shot range model air rifle. What have you done? Wait! Claws is still too strong, and you'll shoot your eye out!
And yep, that's exactly what happened. Now I don't know how I'm going to read the rest of the script. Also, in the Saints Row reboot, a lot of games around this time were including hoverboards and pretty much everything. Some I'll get to coming up, but in Saints Row they added a mission called Eureka Baiter to help Chloe field test her prototype. After jumping on the board, she'll ask you to do a few tasks, one of them being an exact reference to a line from Part 2.
Now head over to Lakeshore.
It works on water?
Sure, if it has power.
Hey, McFly, you bojo! Don't cars don't work on water! Unless you've got power!
Skating on into Rockstar's game Bully, there's again another courthouse square. This one isn't as recognizable, but the clock is stuck at 10:04. I'm surprised at how many games make this 10:04 reference. I'm sure these won't be the last, there will probably be more in the future. There's actually a feature in Bully that is very similar to something Marty does in the movies, and that's skitching. Grab onto the back of any car for a quick get around. Speaking of skitching, within the game Judgment, there's a really cool chase sequence that has it as well. And this entire segment of the story is a major reference to the first movie where Marty is chased by Biff and his gang. There's even a few parts that happen similarly to what happened in the movie. Minus the manure truck, unfortunately. In the remake of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, there's a map called Dead Pine Mall, which is a reference to Twin Pines Mall. The name is actually very fitting since malls have become a lot less popular and abandoned over recent years. In part of the mall, you can go out of one of the exits and spot this sign all lit up. Dying Light 2 is one of those other games that got a hoverboard. If you head on over to the Church of St. Thomas on St. Paul Island, you'll find a quest line given to you by Fatine and Tolga. They also make a reference to Emmett Brown.
More like, according to Dr. Emmett's blueprint.
After their radio transmission, they will want you to go around the map to collect 4 hoverboards. Once you do that, you'll find a hoverboard in the trunk of this car that unlocks a hoverboard challenge mode, where you have to take it through an obstacle course. This one must have power since it's working just fine on water. In the moving out games, you might just spot a skateboard on the main menu screens that look very much like the pink and green design of Marty's hoverboard. I'm not sure if this is an object that can be picked up in game or not, but in the second game there's actually another reference made. On one of the levels, powering up this computer, you'll notice that the amount of electricity it's getting is 1.21 gigawatts. And also Fortnite got hoverboards as well, if you wanted to use them during your Battle Royale matches. In Chapter 5 of Portal 2's main story, you will find the Employees Daycare Center.
Bring your daughter to work day. That did not end well. And 40 potato batteries.
Examining the science fair projects, you'll notice one in particular stands out above the rest, and that's the one that looks like the flux capacitor powered by a potato. Well, sort of. The design is much different, but it's definitely very similar in appearance to the box seen in the movie. It even includes the embossed red labels pasted on it. In Blacklight Retribution, a free-to-play shooter for PS4, we will find an Easter egg and capture the flag matches. Points A and B are a big giant box with a bunch of electronics on the top. Right in the middle is a flux capacitor. On the Area 51 map for Destroy All Humans, this little ledge overlooking the airstrip actually has a little picnic area with a sports almanac laying on the blanket. What's cool is this level was actually never in the original game. When they did the remake, they restored this level that was cut. Very cool that the devs actually decided to have a little fun with the level design. On the Descent map in Killing Floor 2, if you keep your eyes peeled, you might just spot the alternate reality timeline hidden under the staircase. During Half-Life 2, you might notice a couple of familiar things, one being this bit of dialogue from Dr. Kleiner.
Sorry, Doc, but look who's here. Great Scott! Gordon Freeman! I expected more warning. Yeah, you and me both, Doc.
Later on, after entering his lab with Alex, hidden under his desk is actually a plutonium box that looks very similar like the one in the first movie. In the game Contrast, during Act 3, if you make your way through and enter Vincenzo's workshop, you can find a bunch of random objects in here. For instance, you may spot the Terminator exoskeleton arm, but beside that is Doc's unpainted model from the first film.
Let me show you my plan for sending you home. Please excuse the crudity of this model. I didn't have time to build it to scale or to paint it.
And lastly for today's video is in the Deadpool video game. Deadpool is gearing up to drive his rocket-powered bike, but needs a little help from Mr. Fusion.
We need fuel. Once this baby hits 69.9 miles per hour.
What's even funny is the banana in the beer is exactly what Doc Brown used in the ending of Part 1, and refilmed again for Part 2's introduction because of Jennifer's recasting.
No, Doc, I just got here, okay? Jennifer's here. We're gonna take the new truck for a spin.
Well, bring her along. This concerns her too.
Well, that's all I have for this video. There will be much more covered in Part 3, so stay tuned. I should hopefully have it out in a couple weeks. This time I promise it'll be done, I swear.